But I think the important thing here is that, that there are dedicated people that you have aligned with innovation. Oops. Micro font here. Okay, the second category here, which you can't read, is design and planning. There are two aspects here that I'd like to talk about. Is the strategy that's defined by the business and technology leadership clearly understood by the organization? And then once it's translated into action, that roadmap, that's what I call the roadmap, is it well defined? Is it owned in an accountable fashion, and have resources been mobilized to actually get the strategic roadmap done? So by a roadmap, I'm talking about something that is articulating the detailed projects and initiatives to get the strategy implemented. Okay, so first question here is, how well communicated is the strategy throughout the organization? So the thinking here is that you can't implement something, you can't ask people to go design and implement something if they don't understand it. So if you look at this here, I think that somewhere in the almost 50% range are neutral to disagreeing that their strategy is well understood. And this is across the board. Everybody who's taken this survey is sort of in that camp. So we have a lot of work to do here in the communication field around our strategy. For delivering the roadmap, this isn't just a symbolic head, it's somebody who will actually take accountability and who will be held accountable for the implementation of the strategy. The implementation of it, not just the planning of it. And then the resource mobilization here, one of the most significant blocks, I believe, in getting these strategic roadmaps done is not allocating full-time senior experienced resources to get them done. A lot of organizations will spend part-time resources, allocate a day of a subject matter expert to work on these strategic initiatives, and that's just not enough. Okay, the final area here is around execution and project success, an area that you'll see that you all have commanded quite well. So there's two things we usually hear when we talk about project success. It's been documented by the Standish Group and several other organizations who looked at project outcomes. The reason that we wanted to capture this data too is so we connect it back to those other two dimensions, the design and planning as well as the strategic alignment. The two areas we hear about are on time and on budget. And one of the things that I always felt like in my consulting days that people were making sacrifices in the scope of their original efforts to achieve some basic measures around cost and schedule. So we asked the third question around scope. And I think you all have shown some excellent results here. But obviously our North America, UK colleagues have some work to do. So what I've done is taken the liberty of looking through that information and collating it against the original Digital IQ survey and tried to come up with some priorities and some agenda items for you to consider when you go forward with your strategic leadership and management planning. Now, obviously, as we'll get into this a little bit more, you'll see that I haven't provided a list of specific technologies, and I haven't provided any specific cost reduction items on here. These are all about preparing for growth and transformation in keeping with our theme here. Around the specific technologies, obviously we need to understand the technologies both from an innovation perspective and a cost management perspective and core transaction processing, but those things change. They change every week, every month, whatever the buzzword du jour is, and we need to understand the impacts of those technologies, but our management leadership processes and approaches should be able to handle changing technologies. So that's why I've offered a set of management practices and capabilities here as a strategic list of focus items for you versus a specific list of technologies. We'll talk about more of those as the sessions go on, and we can figure those in here. The other thing I didn't include is cost management. I know that you all have been demonstrating very rigorous cost management and containment for several years, and I'm just not sure that that's a transformational capability, although it is a platform for transition. So the four priorities I'd ask you to consider are: one, increasing the visibility of IT's impact. So if you go back to some of the survey data and our general feelings out there about the perspective of IT as a transformational tool, as a strategic player in organizations, I think we have some work to do to build that perception in our business counterparts and frankly in some of our IT counterparts as well, to get us out of the order processing, transaction processing, bill payment, and into the strategic transformation and disruption and innovation that we can bring to the table. Second thing here is increasing the focus on IT's role in innovation. So I mentioned innovation a couple of times already. We have to not only define what innovation means for the organization and IT's role in it, but we have to make sure it links back into the business objectives and that we do it in a way that it can engage our business counterparts, not leave them wondering, are we off playing with technology again? The third area here around clarifying strategy, I think isn't about so much communicating our strategic intent once it's done, but it's engaging everybody in the organization who should be participating in the first place, from anybody working with strategy, finance, operations, and technology together in the design process. And by design, I mean not design of a specific system, but design of the whole system, the whole enterprise system. Process, people, organization, technology. I believe IT can play a big role. The CIO or chief architect or both in an organization can play a really significant role in helping design the overall business design. And I think that's a big opportunity here for IT to take a leadership role in driving that business design. And the final priority here is increasing leadership focus on the strategic programs. This isn't so much about individual projects, but it's this multi-year strategic roadmap that I think we can take more proactive leadership in defining, communicating, and providing leadership on top of those programs. Okay, so I mentioned that there aren't specific technologies in here, and we're not talking about cost cutting here because we're really focused on those capabilities that you can add to your priorities that are about transforming, about adding innovative ideas, about executing on your strategies in a very visible way for the business. Did a little bit of work in looking at some of the things you all have said in the press and in interviews, and I think that the strategic focus is loud and clear in what you're saying externally into your organizations. Doubling customer base. Every CIO has a role to play in business strategy. Our aim is to emerge on a global scale. These are all things that require the strategic focus. So hopefully, these four priorities will give you some ideas and help add to your portfolio of planning for next year. So we're going to go into these four in a little bit more detail. What I'd like to do is provide you a few stories and examples of places where some techniques have been used in a more tangible way as opposed to a bunch of frameworks here. I don't really think that I can prescribe to you a way to go about doing these four things, but hopefully I'll give you a few ideas that you can use and customize and modify for your own organizations and your own cultures. So again, the four priorities are increasing visibility of IT's impact, more focus on innovation. The third is around increasing organizational involvement in this business design, and I think IT can take a big leadership role in this. And increasing the leadership focus on strategic programs. Okay. Make sure we're doing here. Okay. So in promoting IT's business value, there was an article written a couple weeks ago by a Harvard Business Review blogger named